The micro, small and medium enterprises in Kenya form a highly critical role in the development of Kenya's social as well as economic development. This sector controls about 85% of the country's workforce, while generating about 40% of the country's GDP. And hence, the whole efforts by the government to try and help this sector. This week on Inside the Government, we are talking to the Principal Secretary in the State Department for Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, Madam Susan Mang'eni. Asante sana for joining us, Madam PS, for joining us here. Asante sana, yeah. So, when you scan the SMEs environment, what conclusions do you draw?
Yeah, first of all, your observation were right, that this sector is very critical to our economy. There's no any other way we would have thought of, you'll think of growing our economy if you don't place renewed focus on the MSME sector. I mean, the architecture of our economy is in a way that majority of our businesses are MSME. And then further to that, most of our businesses are at micro. And that's why their contribution is still suboptimal. We believe it could be more. And where the opportunity which we have in this economy, in terms of growing our economy, is seeing how we develop MSME. We focus on growing them, that is increasing their productivity, their competitiveness, and their profitability, so that they can maximize on the opportunities which are existing at our grassroots and in our economy. And especially with the current administration, the political goodwill, the good political goodwill that right now is promoting the MSME development, and see how now they can grow and become more competitive. I will also say that in terms of the scale, most MSMEs are still informal. And this one just speaks to limited level of economic participation that we have in our country, where a significant portion of our population, close to almost 70%, who are at the bottom of the economic pyramid, do not have space. And even if they have space, they are not participating effectively in the economic development. Reason being various barriers which are there in our economy, access to financing and access to business support or capacity building, even awareness, knowledge and skills is really limiting. Other terms of a micro now being built in terms of competitiveness and moving to small graduating to medium graduating to large enterprises. And that's the only way we can achieve industrialization in this country.
So you're talking about 18.5
yes.
Million registered MSMEs in the country.
7.5, yeah.
I mean 7.5
yes.
They are registered. And the number is estimated to be about 18 million
MSMEs potentially. So
which means that almost 12 million MSMEs are operating without the legal systems. Do we know why this is the case, and what is the government doing to try and amend that anomaly?
The first thing that the government has done, of course, is to come up with a state department, to establish a state department, meaning that we are now putting a renewed focus on MSME development, which has never been the case in the past. In the past, what has been happening in this ecosystem is that we have a number of players, actors, and by the way, who have been doing something. You have private sector, you have development partners, but there was no coordination and there was no opportunity or a platform where all these actors can leverage on each other, and therefore creating an opportunity for scaling up and graduating this MSME from one level to another. It becomes so difficult, and this is what now makes them now get into the black markets.
The operating environment becomes expensive.
The operating environment becomes very expensive to navigate around. So
are we
many
doing
licenses
anything to make it easy?
Yes. We are doing. We are doing a lot. We are doing a lot. We are bringing county governments together. For example, in as far as the harmonization of licensing or regime is concerned, and we want to have one license for this MSME, so that at the end of the day they can also make profit. Because you cannot be doing a business where you are running into losses. So they are all Kenyan MSME, and we have to support intra-county trading. And for us to open up the intra-county trading, intra-county and inter-county trading opportunities, we have also to review some of those regulatory framework that have been keeping off MSME. Because if you do not make it easy for them to operate, then what will they do? They will come up with their own black markets of doing this thing, and they'll prefer staying informal, not being known, because we have to understand their needs. And this is what this government is doing, bringing all actors together, and understanding the needs of MSMEs, from the training needs to financing to market access, and developing interventions that meets their needs from wherever they are. And I keep on saying at their convenience, because what has been happening, even when it comes to, like, let's say revenue, the KRA, you find these institutions you will develop a product informed by your own convenience. But if you really want to bring people into that space, even for KRA, they need to develop the revenue collection solutions or models that meets MSME at their point of convenience. Because you appreciate the environment in which they're working in. These are people who are very dynamic. These are people who are highly mobile. These are in terms of moving from one corner to another. Some of them are now using digital platform to market their goods. And so where do you find MSME? You must know, where am I finding this MSME? How do I create convenient and customer-tailored products for them, be it for revenue? And you'll find that they will come on board. For example, I've been discussing with KRA, and I'm telling them, it's not that MSMEs do not want to formalize and also, pay revenue, because everybody understands for that environment to be, to be enabled and to be improved, we must pay taxes. And
I like the fact that you're bringing in the issue of taxes, because one of the biggest challenges, that MSMEs face in this country is lack of capital and access to credit. And that's why when you go through the MSME Act, it talks about the creation of an MSME fund that was meant to help MSMEs access loans, at a very market-friendly rate. But 10 years down the line, this is yet to be activated. Do we have any plans to put up the SMEs fund?
The Hustler Fund is grounded on MSME. Besides, we have so many catalytic funds in government, the ones you call affirmative funds, like the Women Fund, the Uwezo Fund, the Youth Enterprise Fund, the Kenya Industrial Estate Fund. All these are MSME. Whom are they supporting is MSME. The problem is not financing. Financing is available. The problem is the process to access that financing. And I think this is where now we are challenging all financing institutions, both within the government, government agencies that, like the one I've mentioned, and those in the private sector, to become innovative in terms of enabling easy and access to affordable credits to MSME. There is financing there, but uptake is very low. Why? Because of the conditionalities that are pegged around those funding. So I think the problem is not lack of financing. Financing is there, but how accessible is this financing.
Are you saying that, about 40% of the owners of MSMEs in this country, they have not gone beyond high school level? And so their grasp of issues is also limited. And so how are we streamlining our operations to ensure that they are tailor-made to suit everyone along the value chain?
For us to grow MSME, we must build their capacity once. We must make sure that they have access to information and the knowledge skills that they need to build up their businesses and to enhance and improve their businesses, because that one then bears on their level of competitiveness. We must make sure that we first of all assess what are their capacity needs. Like you're saying, most of them have not gone to school. By the way, when it comes to the capacity needs for MSME, it has got nothing to do with whether you've gone to school. I mean, we have people who are PhD holders, but they cannot run successful business. So the business skills and knowledge is very unique, and it has to be built around opportunities. But what kind of training can we give them, so that they can also run their business in a very improved manner? We're looking at financial access, because it all begins with capacity building. Financial access, for example, one of the barriers in financial access has been lack of collateral, because most of the MSME, again, is not just about lack of literal skills, but is also about lack of title in certain entitlements. Most of them don't, if they're women, of course, quite a number of them, and majority, I will say, the women, they don't have land ownership, so they don't have titles. If they're young people, again, also who are majority in that space, they don't own land. So if you are going to charge your financial products on the titles, land titles, then you're locking these people already outside. So what other alternative forms of collateralization can we develop? And this is why our current administration came up with the Hustler Fund. The reason why Hustler Fund came up is try and build credit score. Try to introduce a new form of collateral, which is credit score, among MSME and the financing ecosystem, so that you can access your financing based on how well you've been borrowing and repaying. As you borrow and repay, it shows positive credit behavior or credit attribute, which can be trusted in the market. And just based on that, you don't need to take your collateral to access financing. It's your credit score that will speak volume, that will become your security. And we've seen so many financial institutions which are now saying that they're willing now to graduate the Hustler Fund borrowers to now start borrowing from them, because they have shown some sort of a positive credit score or credit worth, which they can now ride on. And
you had earlier talked about various affirmative action funds, and you talked about the Women's Fund, the Youth Fund. Now the government has brought on board the Hustlers Fund. What is different now how is Hustlers Fund different from other affirmative action funds like Women's Fund and Youth Fund?
All these funds exist to serve a particular purpose. MSME have got different needs that requires different level of intervention. Again, MSME is not homogeneous. The MSME have got different levels of segments. It has got different segments. For example, you have micro, and where we've said the majority of informal MSMEs are at micro. You'll hardly get an informal MSME for small, because by the time you get into small, you already somehow registered, you already formalized, you already known somehow. We are known and you're doing something that requires some sort of support. There is a history of you somewhere there, so you can easily be graduated. So these funds, and you rightly call them affirmative fund, they are achieving a certain purpose which is meant to correct a given market failure. The Hustler Fund is correcting 3 market failure. And just to put it into context, by the time when Hustler Fund was coming on board, Hustler Fund was first of all informed by the MSMEs who are the grassroots, those people who are at the bottom of the economic pyramid, who narrated to this administration that the cost of getting access to credit as little as even $2 or 200 shilling was extremely expensive. Why? Because MSMEs, most of those MSME at that level, they're not banked, they're not served, they don't have collaterals, they don't have any security. So because of them being not served, they created opportunities for predatory digital lenders. And because you are in need and you're desperate about accessing a credit, the predatory digital lenders will come up with all these financial products that are mouth-watering. Flash it on your phone, flash it on the television, and you will entice you into getting into them. Because at that particular time you are desperate, you will not even mind what interest rate you're paying. So most of those predatory financial products and who are being, disbursed through the digital mobile platforms will have high interest rates, some of it which, if you are to compute, will hit 360% per annum. And most of them, their interest rates will be per day or per loan, per that disbursement. And this is very expensive to a micro MSME who, let's say, requires just a capitation of 1,000 bob. So if you're borrowing 1,000 bob on daily basis and you're being subjected to 10%, per annum, how much money are you paying? So you see there is absolutely no growth because you're just working to service the interest rate at the end of the day. But we exist to make sure if those MSMEs do not grow, do not register any sort of growth, it means that they cannot graduate to another level. They'll just be stagnant there. And this equally impacts on their livelihood because that's their source of livelihood. That's where, if they fall sick, that's where they dip to. When they need to put food on the table, it is from those business that they put. But you see, if there is no element of growth, you either become perpetually indebted and you become perpetually like sort of, you become a captive of those predatory lenders, what was happening. And as a government, there's no way you'll preside over an economy where majority of your population are under some sort of captivity by these predators. So we had to come in. And by coming in is, first of all, we prevented them from that exploitation. MSMEs who are requiring that level of financing, they can now access Hustler Fund at a single-digit interest rate.
Well.
And secondly, as we do that also, we kind of give them and it's 7% is a single-digit interest rate per annum. So there's not that sense of exploitation that they were experiencing. By doing that, we also helping them to build their credit score. And this credit score will help them in future to graduate to financial institution that now can give them access to higher limit to expand their businesses. So we've already done that. But the second market failure that we also corrected is that when the administration came in, it found close to 8 million MSMEs or Kenyans who had been listed negatively in credit referencing bureaus. You know, once you're listed in a credit reference bureau, you're discredited in as far as credit access is concerned. So it means already you are locked out, and again also you're locked out of the economy, because without credit, how can you do business? So you can imagine 7 million, between 7
SMEs.
to 10 million Kenyans being locked out, and these are very productive MSMEs.
And that's how you brought in the issue of the Hustlers Fund.
Yes, so the Hustler Fund, the other market failure again. That you're correct. The predatory was not just on the lending. Predatory was also on the savings, because these MSMEs are not banked. They don't get opportunities. They're limited in terms of accessing even the saving products in the existing financial institution market. So then what happens is that again, they have no opportunities to save. If let's say today they have had a markup of, let's say, or a profit of $1 or 100 shillings or 200 shillings, they cannot go to the bank. In any case, some of them don't even have bank account. They cannot go to the bank, move away from the village and we are riding on the existing infrastructure of the private sector, for example, for digital, because it's only digital lending that can reach out. It's an infrastructure which can reach out to many MSMEs from whichever part of the country which they are. And that's why today, 6 months down the line, we've been able to disburse 30 billion.
30 billion shillings.
Through the
so how do you know that these 30 billion shillings has gone towards the targeted market of MSMEs?
Yeah, because the size of loan,
which
the
is
ticket
500
size,
shillings.
from 500 to about the first loan was 500 to about 50,000 shillings, and as you borrow, you repay. So we've reached out to the targeted, like I say, potentially we have about 18 million MSMEs. And if the statistics which are available in terms of the credit bureau, they will also put the credit market, the potential credit market in Kenya is also between 18 million to about 20 million. So you can see we've reached out to about 20 million. So virtually whatever the statistics which they have, and so far where Hustler Fund has been able to cover, it's almost tally. So we can say actually we are reaching out to the targeted market. But again also, we also every day we witness close to 7 million Kenyans borrowing and paying, regularly. What does that also mean to you? It also gives us some sort of an indicator that those people who are borrowing, they're not just borrowing probably to consume. They must be, the more you keep on borrowing regularly and repaying, it means you must be investing in something, maybe in some sort of business that requires like daily credit or weekly, regular access to credit. So we are able to determine that. So we are actually reaching out to the targeted market.
And when you look at, you are talking about 30 billion shillings that has so far been disbursed from the Hustlers Fund. And in an economy the size of ours, I mean, there is no way you would inject 30 billion shillings without what we call the trigger effect. What has these funds, done to our economy? I
think there is trigger effect. There is trigger effect in this sense. Beside the small ticket, we've been walking around and you meet Mama Mboga telling you, I borrowed 500, I increased my stock. I was doing 500, today I'm doing 1,000 bob. I'm doing 1,500, I'm doing 2,000 bob. And even in terms of, like if you want to know that there is an effect to our economy, all this ends up also, there's in an economy you have production and you have consumption. This money is circulating around our economy because even those ones who are borrowing because they want to buy something for, let's say, just personal consumption or personal use. They're injecting it back to the economy. No wonder you are seeing people, we are crying about high cost of living. But we're still surviving, we're still continue. Because now they have an opportunity where no matter how worse it becomes, you can borrow and repay and do whatever you wanted to do. We had high traffic around the month of December and towards the Christmas period. What does that tell us? It tells us around that time actually, people in the economy were borrowing so that they can take care of the Christmas festival. And then
So they were borrowing to consume.
But again, if you're borrowing and you're repaying, it's okay. Today you could be expecting, maybe you're expecting some money to come in and you don't have it. We don't want to put you into a desperate situation. If you can go and access this credit at a very affordable, and once you get money, you repay.
How many people have defaulted?
We have defaulters, but they are not so much significant, because out of the 20 million people that we have reached out, about between 15 to 16 million people have borrowed and have repaid, and the repayment is right now is close to 20 billion, which is being repaid and being recycled over. The repayment, the defaultment which you are having, one is still active, because you see, you pay. If you borrow, like let's say for the hustler personal loan, your initial repayment period is 14 days, but you can roll over once up to 30 days. And even in the existing financial market, you have about 2 or 3 months to be seen as if that is a bad debt, because you still have an opportunity to pay within the 60 days. So right now, people whom you'll be saying they have defaulted, there are not so many people that have refused to repay. And we can work out those statistics, because some are now repaying even with the current. You see, now we are having the current product, which is the group loan. And for you to access group loan, you must have paid your outstanding loan with the Hustler Fund. Mm-hmm. In the last 2-3 days, we've seen significant improvement in terms of repay, because there are people who are forming in the group and they are told, you still have that outstanding. Now they repay so that they can now with others join to access now higher limits as a group, which now they guarantee each other. So we will not say that we are at that level where people have borrowed and have refused to pay, mm-hmm. because we are still,
so we are still in the process of repayment.
In the process, and people are still repaying and are still being urged to pay. And the more you repay, you access higher limits. Mm-hmm. So this one has really encouraged people. Financing gap, mm-hmm. 19.3 billion.
That's about 20 billion US dollars.
That is needed in terms of the financing gap that you have for MSME. So meaning, even if you brought in Hustler Fund, you brought in all these funds, you brought in the institutions which are there, we still need more in terms of financing. So they cannot alter anything. It's still moist, like a drop in the ocean.
What is your message to the SMEs that are watching you on this show?
I will say that first, we have a renewed focus on MSME. And we exist here to support them to grow. And we are committed to coming up with interventions by working with all actors, bringing all actors on the table who are in that ecosystem, private sector, the MSMEs themselves, the development partners, the government agencies, the intergovernment, the intergovernment bodies, to make sure that we all now read and act from the same script.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam P.S., for joining us, and of course for sharing those insights with us. Your time is highly appreciated. My name is O'Brien Kimani. You have heard it from her, Madam Susan Mang'eni. Until next week, have a good afternoon.